Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lungleng Show. And I have a very, very interesting guest today. And she is Tolino Chishi, who just cracked the UPSC exam very recently. And she stood All India rank 431, which is a great success in a society like this. And what is most remarkable here is that she's just 25 years old. And I mean, we have never seen anyone at this age cracking UPSC in a society like ours. So I'm very glad that she did it, and I am genuinely happy, and I genuinely want to congratulate her for such an achievement. And as a Naga, we are all very, very proud of her. And I believe that she will do great service for our society, and she will, as a Naga woman, showcase what Naga integrity is all about, I believe. However, a lot of must be remembering what I wrote last year, that I'm not interested and I don't want to promote the over glorification of UPSC on my show, which I did. And however, many people had requested me to bring one of the candidates or successful candidates on the show, especially Tolino Chishi. So this is a talk show, and I'm open to any kind of ideas, and I'm open to any kind of profession. So however, the reason I decided not to bring any one of them last year was not because I don't support them, not because I'm not happy for them, but because I was not so satisfied with how our society responds to it and how our society becomes so conditioned to this one thing. And the whole objective is that our society needs to grow beyond this. That's why I wanted to stop a little bit and make sure our society picks up on other professions and learn to respect other professions, as we all do for our civil service profession as well. So there's nothing about my dislike or about why about this profession or about this exam, but rather I'm genuinely happy, and I want to congratulate her for such a great achievement. And like I said, I'm honestly and I'm personally proud of you, Tolino.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and finally for coming to my show. And this is going to be very, very interesting conversation. However, you have talked a lot on how you cracked this exam a lot. So our focus would be more on your story as a person. And I want to unpack the person you are, because cracking this exam, I believe that this exam is very, very, very tough, and the syllabus is just huge and vast. And cracking this exam requires a lot of things, but you have talked a lot about it in other from other sources. However, today I want to know what is in your head and the values that you hold and the kind of plan and visions that you have as going to be a bureaucrat. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you for coming all the way from Dimapur to just have a conversation like this, and I'm sure my audience will enjoy this.
Thank you. Thank you so much, first of all. It's my pleasure to be here. So thank you for having me. Thank you for all the kind wishes. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Wonderful. So I want to know more about you. Where were you born and where were you raised?
Okay. So I was born in Kohima.
Okay.
My parents, they both work in the government sector, and they were based in Kohima. So I grew up in Kohima, basically my early childhood, up till the time I was in class 10. I lived in Kohima. I studied at the Northfield School for a few years. Then I was at LFS for a few years. And so till I was 16, Kohima was my world. And then I moved out after that. I was in a boarding school for 2 years at Assam. And then Delhi for graduation. And somewhere in the middle of all of this, my parents also, they shifted to Dimapur. So that's where I'm based right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What took you to Assam, like, if I may know? What took you to Assam?
So...
Isn't it rare, like, for Nagas to go and study in Assam?
Or I don't know if it's rare is actually the word for it. But for me personally, how I ended up there was... so that big thing comes, right? It's like a junction after you finish your class 10. Everyone, you have to choose, are you going for science or arts?
Yes.
commerce also, less commonly I think here though. And I decided that I wanted to study the humanities. And at the same time, what was happening was actually that my parents wanted to send my younger brother off to boarding school as well.
Okay.
And I had always been very keen on the idea of going to a boarding school because of books, that I'd grown up reading. I was always pestering my parents every now and then, send me off to boarding school. So since it was also close by and it was a boarding school and it had a good humanities stream.
Okay.
So that's all these factors together. That's how we decided that,
Okay.
I would be there.
So what people know about you at this moment is that you have cracked UPSC and you're going to become a civil servant. Was this your dream when you were a kid?
It was. I think as a kid, I wanted to do a lot of things, and there was no such dream that was very consistent.
Yeah.
So whatever I was watching on TV at that particular time is what I would want to be.
Yeah.
So I think as a child, my grandmother did mention this idea once. She told me that if you study hard and work hard, there's this thing called IS officer. She said IAS. I didn't hear that. I was just 4 or 5, so I was like, chalo, that's the first time I heard of it. I was like, okay, so there is a thing like that. But I mean, that was just I heard about it for the first time there. And later on, I did. I wanted to be a doctor actually for the longest time.
Okay.
But I'm quite uncomfortable with blood and all of those things. So I think by the time I was in class 8 or 9, it became quite. I thought that I did want to give the exams, the civil services exams, and go into it. And so it was a childhood dream, but later in school, 11th, 12th, in college, I think the reasons for why I wanted to do it also changed a little bit. I had a time of conscious thinking, I think, about what I wanted to do, a little more, a serious sort of
Right.
A little bit of an exploration about what the job actually entails, what it would need of you, what it exposes you to, where it takes you. So it was a childhood dream,
Okay,
but
great. All in all, it was part of your childhood dream. That's great. I mean, as far as my observation about you is concerned, you seem to be very, very self-aware. You're conscious of who you are and
try.
what you want to be. How was your upbringing? How was your treatment? How was your parents' treatment towards you? Like, how would you like to describe? Was it, in your best word?
I come from a very close-knit family.
Okay.
So it's just
quite a family-oriented.
very family-oriented.
Yes.
Very. My mom, my dad, my younger brother, and me. So it's just the 4 of us. And my parents have always been very involved, hands-on sort of parents ever since the time we were kids. And I think not always, it's not always the case, but in many cases you also find that fathers are not as involved in parenting as much as mothers are.
True.
That, even emotionally, that sort of
yeah.
emotional closeness, that connection. But fortunately for me, it was never like that. Both my parents were always very involved. They would always show up for, they always put us first, me and my brother. So whenever we had, even if it's extracurriculars, whatever we were doing, if we had some significant day in our lives, they would always make sure that they showed up and they were there for it. Very supportive. I think they've also always given us this space to be who we are, to explore who we are. And even if, it's not, sometimes we also don't really see eye to eye on everything, but I think it's been an accommodative environment. They tell me what they want to do, what they think. I tell them, and if we don't see eye to eye, we have arguments also. But that space is there all the time. And as a child, when I was growing up, I think they provided us with a really stimulating environment. So a lot of exposure to different extracurriculars, do this, do that sort of a thing. I love reading books. So even the reading habit was, my mother, she directly introduced us to books. She would take my brother and I to the state library up there, and we would go there and pick up 2 books each every week.
Okay.
So all in all, a very good childhood, very supportive parents. They've always been there for me, very understanding. So yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, your parents literally involved in your personal life, in every activity of your life, which is not a very, normal thing in Naga family normally. Like they will do the admission, you go, and our parents normally don't involve in minute details. In most Naga family, right? That's my impression about our family. Our Naga family in general.
I think it goes so much beyond just financially supporting your children, you know.
Exactly.
I think that's where it starts.
So your dad is also emotionally involved.
Very much.
For you,
yes,
right?
yes.
We hardly see such fathers.
Yeah, when
Not
I was a
because
kid,
fathers don't love children, but
there's certain I think barriers.
Barriers.
Societally conditioned also sometimes.
That's the thing.
But so when I was a child also sometimes I remember there was this running joke once, because when I would get hurt, I don't remember myself, but it's a story that some relatives would talk about, that when I got hurt, I would cry and call for my dad first, not my mom. So they're like, oh,
okay.
No, that's...
And maybe you come from a family where even the father can say their children in person, hey, my daughter, my son, I love you. In Naga family, it's going to be very, very rare.
Yeah,
you come from that family?
I've realized that, actually not just with Naga families, but when I talk even on the phone with my parents, whether it's my mother or my father, we always end the conversation with an I love you.
Wow.
Like it's just how we do it. And
now everything makes sense.
Yeah, and people sometimes, if there's somebody next to me, and they overhear that conversation, they seem a little surprised, that.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's not close like that. So
I've never come across
I see.
Any Naga family like that.
Okay. So for us, it's the norm, and it always ends with an I love you.
Yeah, because if my father tells me that, it becomes like questionable. Is he fine mentally? Although I wanted to hear, but that's not a normal thing.
It becomes a surprise.
Yeah, thank you for that. We are a little bit able to unpack of like what kind of family environment you were brought up in. And that's very, very interesting. I hope many parents learn from this and be a parents in every way of their children. I believe that's very, very crucial. And so you did after your class 10, you did your class 10 in Assam, in Assam, right?
Till class 10, I was in Nagaland. I did my class 10 from Little Flower School.
Okay.
Kohima.
From here only?
Yes, from here.
Oh, great. And after that?
Then class 11 and 12, I was in Assam. So 2 years of boarding school.
I see.
And then I moved to Delhi for my bachelor's. I studied psychology at Lady Shriram College.
Okay. LSR, right?
Yes.
When did you move for your bachelor studies?
Where did I?
When was it? Yeah.
This was in 2017.
Not long ago.
It's...
relative. Yeah, relatively it's not long ago. I come from a different perspective when I say that.
Okay. So
until 2020 you studied your bachelor. And you have been preparing for this exam for how many years?
So 2020, the pandemic hit. I never really graduated properly from college. We came home for for a mid-semester break and never went back.
Okay.
So I think I had my final exam sometime towards the end of 2020. I think it was September, something like that. And after that, my plan actually was that I would take up a master's in Delhi and then maybe also start coaching side by side. But with the lockdown, everything sort of went out the window, like all the plans that I had made for myself. So I started thinking that I should just sit and start studying from home. So I did also enroll for this online coaching module in late 2020.
Okay.
But very honestly, I must be very honest here, I was not mentally into it at all.
Okay.
I was in that, sometimes you feel very young. You feel like, I'll study next month, I'll study next year. I'm so young. So I did enroll for the lectures, but I did not attend them sincerely. am anyway not. Attending online lectures every day, it's sort of, it's not the most interesting thing for everyone, I think.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I was
true.
lacking in determination, willpower anyway. So I think 2020, I was officially preparing for the exams. I mean, since I wasn't doing anything else, studying a master's or anything, but I was not studying at all, meaningfully in any way. I was baking bread and I don't know, doing all kinds of things. I mean, a lot more than, what I should have.
Okay.
So I did that, and sometime in 2021, that's when the seriousness sort of hit me one night, that I'm just wasting my time and fooling nobody. So I started studying like really seriously after that. And I was at home the whole time.
Right.
2021, I started studying, 22, 23. So yeah, it's
That's how
since
it
then.
went. Oh, okay. So for many Nagas, and when we look at them, if they want to appear UPSC, they would head to Delhi and stay there for until they crack the exam. And many would not crack and come back. Did you do the same?
I did not actually. I did. I'm still scared of that area. That old Rajinder Nagar Karol Bagh area. I find it a little overwhelming.
Okay.
It's like you can't breathe without a coaching poster, coming at you. So
Okay.
I did not go for classes. I did not live in that area. I did not. I was there in Delhi for a few months. This was sometime in 2022.
Okay.
I was there for about 4 months. I signed up for some tests. I would go and give them, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think coaching is a necessity at all, actually, these days. I mean, if when you're starting out, I understand it can give you a structure, it can give you a proper idea of what you have to study, where you have to study it from. But if you're willing to take a little more initiative on your own, I think in today's world, the internet just has everything that you need, whether it's pointers from successful candidates of the past examinations. I mean, I took a lot of help from their blog posts and how they went about studying, what they decided to do, what they decided not to do. Took a lot of pointers from that. Other than those pointers, a lot of videos on YouTube explaining, every concept that you would need to understand, I think. A lot of free material also available online.
Okay.
So, and for me personally, I found it a lot more comfortable studying at home. It depends on your home environment, the personal context that you have. But for me, I did not have to worry about, my accommodation. I did not have to worry about my food. So it was a very comfortable sort of
Okay. So
stay for me.
you were in Dimapur.
I was in
most of the
Dimapur.
time.
Yes, I was in Dimapur. Completely cut off though, honestly, since, for at least 2 years, I
You
did not go out of the house.
Yeah.
And the thing is, in the beginning, it's a little difficult to lock yourself in. But once you get so used
Yeah.
to being inside all the time, I think it becomes a little difficult to go out again. So
Yeah. So
a lot of cutting
that
off.
was you locking yourself into room. I mean, not literally, but like in that sense. Was it part of your that was your plan, or your life was heading there without knowingly?
Intentional. Okay, so I think partly it was also intentional,
Okay.
because just going out once in the day also, sometimes it's, it can be like a 2-hour event, but you spend an hour getting dressed for that. You spend another 40 minutes on commute.
Yeah.
You come back, you feel tired. Now you have to take a nap because you have to recover from the tiredness. Before you know it, the day is gone.
Okay.
So, and sometimes when you go out and meet people, I love meeting people. I've always been a people person. But sometimes you also, when you interact with people, you're not always going to hear things that you want.
Of course.
And sometimes you hear something you don't really like and it plays in your head afterwards. And I think it takes up mental space also, your mental resources,
I'm sure.
emotional resources. So all these reasons combined, I thought,
Okay.
let's just make a conscious effort to, as it is, the syllabus was so vast.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
So
much.
that was the main consideration, actually, how to finish studying what I have to study. And when I had a bit of a plan for that, there was no time for going out and socializing and all of that. So
So without I mean, I believe we are a social being, and when we lose that element in our life, you know, our mind somehow, as far as I understand, tricks us into thinking that, you know, you don't need them, and you are yourself. And because once we lose in contact with people, like we probably tend to think that, okay, this is my world, and I don't need anybody, and that's how sometimes mental issue can creeps in. Yeah. So did you face some sort of such, you know, symptoms in your life that, okay, now I have been so away from people, I've really cut down my involvement with people. You're a people person, as you described, and when you don't do that, it goes against the nature of who you are. So did you face any challenge?
Okay, so first thing, like you said, I think it's unhealthy for anybody, you know, so I don't want to glorify this whole going into isolation thing, but it is something that comes with the exam. I mean, if you choose this path, it's something that comes as a part of the package, and you just have to take it. There's no option as such. That aside, it is very unhealthy. And at the same time, though, I did stay in touch with a few friends, real friends, you know, that true friends that you don't have to necessarily be in contact with every day, but if something comes up in their lives, I'm always just a call away. If something comes up in my life, I always had them a call away. And there were times throughout this process also when you're just stuck alone in a room. It's you and your thoughts. And sometimes your thoughts can really be your worst enemy also.
Absolutely. Overthinking.
So a lot of overthinking, a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty.
Very much.
So my friends have really been. My parents, of course, they were always there at home, and everything. But my friends, they have really helped me through things. They have been unconditional pillars of support. Like some of them, you know, some of my real friends. Some are really good friends, I mean.
Real friends.
Some are really good, close friends. And they would listen to me, and whatever problems and woes I had, they would very kindly also point out if there was something a little faulty with the way I was thinking.
Makes sense.
I mean, if I was having a particularly bad day today and I feel like I'm going to become nothing, you know, I'm just going to be like a garbage bag for the rest of my life. I mean, they would very kindly also point out that, you know, that's not true. That's not true. And I studied psychology in college. So a lot of my good friends also, they have gone on to pursue psychology professionally. So they helped me with a lot of other resources as well. They connected me to therapists. I was seeing a therapist for some time.
Why did you feel the need?
So like I said, I studied psychology in college. So that particular stigma, I think, that exists around mental health that has never been there for me. And I've always wanted to try therapy myself at some point. That was always the plan. But then this exam came, and along with it came, you know, all the usual stuff that it brings, anxiety and uncertainty and all of that. So it sort of coincided. I thought, what better time than this? So I was seeing a therapist. I saw a therapist online. We had online sessions once a week, and I think that really helped. You know, even to become more aware of myself, to be more intentional in the things that I do, the things that I think also. This sort of awareness that even mental health, like physical health, how we take steps and initiatives to stay healthy. It's the same for your mental health. You have to consciously put in an effort to do well mentally also. And so when I first started seeing a therapist, sometime towards the beginning of my prep, I used to struggle a lot with procrastination. Procrastination has always been like a thing. I think throughout my life that has been a thing.
Count me in for the same thing.
The procrastination club, no? So it's something I've always struggled with. And when I started seeing this therapist, you know, I was telling her that I have so much to study, I have so much to cover, and I'm just here not doing things, and I would procrastinate. That would make me more anxious. Then I would procrastinate. That would make me more anxious. And that's when she sort of very kindly, told me that, sometimes people procrastinate not because you're lazy. I mean, and I was beating myself up a lot for that, right? I was like, oh, I'm lazy, I'm worthless, and I don't like who I am, and all of these things.
Yeah.
A lot of mean things about myself, I think I was
Makes
thinking
sense.
them, saying them.
Makes sense.
And she told me that, it's not necessary that you're lazy and that's why you're procrastinating. Sometimes procrastination comes from a fear of failure. You are so scared to fail that you don't want to start something at all, so that you can.
Yeah.
And that really sort of got me thinking, and then I was like, okay, maybe I've been thinking so much about the symptom and not the root cause of the problem. So then I started paying more attention to why I was so scared of failure and how to deal with that. I think that really, that's just one instance, but it really helped get my thoughts in order and really helped me to move forward as well, prep-wise, life-wise.
So do you recommend like anyone preparing for exam like that, or not necessarily exam, but anyone who needs to just move away from people to focus on their career, to focus on the mission that they have to achieve? Do you recommend that if you cut away from people as often, then it's always good to have someone to talk to about your mental wellness?
Okay,
you don't have to be
in terms
necessarily
of-
like mentally sick as such, but for you to feel better, for you to like make yourself more aware of, because when we are so much into ourselves and when no one talks to us, our judgment also can go very, very wrong in our life, right?
Of course.
So what do you recommend from your experience?
So a few things first.
Yeah.
Therapy is expensive. That is just the truth of. I hope it becomes more affordable, more accessible with time. But it is an investment.
Absolutely.
It is a thing. So, but if you can access it, I think, and if you feel like you would benefit from it, please don't let stigma hold you back, is what I would tell anybody. And not just for people who are preparing for the exams or in isolation. I think everyone can benefit from a therapy. Like I'm not seeing a therapist right now, but I intend to see a therapist no matter, for the rest of my life, if I can. Because even if you're not isolated, I think even if it's just normal life, it never hurts you to have access to additional resources that can actually and in all of our lives there are so many things we can't control, but what we can control is ourselves, the way we think, the things that we do. So I think everybody can benefit from therapy.
I'm sure. I don't know where does this stigma come from, but we have a misunderstanding of what mental therapy is, right? It doesn't necessarily mean anything that, oh, I'm sick and it's beyond my control and I'm out of control. It's about just well-being. As much as we want our health to be best at best, and we want our mind to be at best, we want everything to be at best. So that's another topic for another day, like how we should address this stigma in our society. And getting a mental health therapy doesn't mean like it's everything is gone. We don't have to think to that extent. It's just like, okay, I'm very stressful for this year because of so and so reason, or loss of loss of a loved ones. I need some words, some professional to help me to tackle with this trauma example, right? So I think in that direction too.
Yeah, and first things first, a therapist is never going to step in and start telling you what to do. Not going to solve the problems for you, right? They just give you additional tools from your own life that you can use.
Absolutely.
And the second thing, I think when it comes to mental illness also, a lot of people also see it as a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
And here, I feel like in Naga society also, sort of a gendered idea also comes in, with men. In a very typically patriarchal society, you have these ideas of how men should be, cannot be. You cannot be emotional, or you cannot be sensitive, or you cannot be weak and be seeing a therapist, sort of a thing. I hope that changes in the future. I hope that really changes. And a lot of people, sometimes I see people on social media also, they're like, I mean, ajikali though, chitumuto karne bhi, everyone is like, oh, you know, I'm having anxiety, I'm depressed and all of that. Ajikali hi kile iman depression, kile iman anxiety. But I think it's always been there. It's just that you have a name for it now and people are more aware of it. So they're like, oh, you know, this what I'm feeling, bitorde, this thing, it's anxiety.
Okay.
But it's not like our ancestors never felt anxiety, right? Or that they did not have low phases in their lives as well.
Why not?
And they have braved through things without additional resources. We now have the opportunity to use additional resources that we have. So why let something like stigma stop us?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, the better we come to this awareness, the better it will be for our society, and that can save everyone, or they can save people who are very vulnerable to this issue, right? So we should encourage people to go and see if you are concerned about what you are going through in your life, right? That's a very good thing, and I'm happy that you are boldly stepping out and say that. And this is not a stigma, of course. This is not at all. It's just that we just need to talk to people and seek professional help.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it is. It's something that's relatively new, I think.
Very much.
New things always take a bit of time to warm up to, but I hope we get over that period quickly.
But like Dr. Manmohan Singh said, when he liberalized the Indian economy, no one can stop the idea whose time has come. You know, like something like that. When these things come, definitely all this stigma talk, and I think this kind of stigma will just run out, and this kind of, let's say, therapy will become a new normal.
Yes.
And I look forward to that kind of day.
So do I.
So, and you are explaining yourself and describing yourself as someone who loves to read books. I mean, like your mom was the one who introduced you since your young age about reading books. And what kind of genre of book? What kind of books are you really into?
So I don't really think I have any one particular, and I think it has really changed, depending on my age, the phase of life that I was in. My parents are not very big readers. So when I was younger, my mom would take us to the library. Growing up in Kohima, we did not really have the luxury of having a lot of bookshops, where you could go and choose things. So I would read whatever I could get my hands on. So even Harry Potter, I mean, till today, it's one of my, it's something I love, right? But I started with book 5 first. So you start with book 5 and then you go read book 3 and then you read book 1. So it's been really haphazard like that.
Okay.
So a lot of reading, whatever I could get my hands on. My dad, when we were children, we would go to one of the stationery shops in BOC. Every month, he would pick up the Reader's Digest and he would pick up Tinkle comics for me and my brother. So then I would read his Reader's Digest as well. I think that was my first time reading non-fiction as such. I am more of a fiction person. I read a lot of fiction. Recently, like over the last few years, I've also been trying to make a more conscious effort to read more non-fiction as well. But I think a lot of it depends on how I'm feeling and what I'm looking for at a particular moment. Yeah. So over the last few years, I think I've also become a little more conscious of the kind of books that I want to read. Something that has something to teach me also. I mean, not in the self-help book sort of sense. I'm not a very big fan of I don't know why. Sometimes if I feel like somebody is trying to persuade me, then it puts me off a little bit. I don't like somebody trying to actively persuade me into thinking or doing something a particular way. But fiction that talks about different people's experiences from different cultures, different perspectives, I think that is something I've become very keen to explore. Then again, I have some days when I just don't want anything heavy. I just want to take a breather. So then I go for a very light, fun romance, something funny and light.
How about religious books? Do you read?
Religious books, not really. Not really.
Okay.
Our Daily Bread.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I haven't really Yeah.
I mean, in terms of religious values and beliefs, as all Nagas are, I'm sure you're also Christian. And
Yes.
yeah, how do you view your belief as a Christian, and what role does it play in your life? Your religious beliefs and views. What role does it play so far?
See, I am a Christian.
Yeah.
It's I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. That's it's something very important to me in my life, of course. But I also have a very personal approach to religion. I think over the years, it's become a more. I mean, my understanding of my life as a Christian is based more on certain principles. I think that I feel are the foundations of what Jesus would like, what
Okay.
Jesus would want me to do. You know, so justice, love. I think my idea of who I am as a Christian, what I should do as a Christian, I think it's based on these principles, more or less. I take my religion seriously. I take my communication with God very seriously. But I also view it as a very personal relationship, not something formal, or ritualistic. I don't think I'm a ritualistic sort of person at all. I'm very comfortable with also questioning certain things.
Absolutely.
I've never been a very big fan of following rules very blindly.
Yeah.
So if there's a rule, my mother would always joke as a child that you always have a problem with rules, because you tell me a rule and I'll always follow up with a why. And if I don't find the why very sensible, then it takes quite a bit to convince me. So I think my approach to religion is also that God is everything, of course, devotion, love, and Christian values in my life. I think that's very important. I want to be somebody that Jesus can be proud of. I want to be somebody who would behave in a way that would show that, I love Jesus, I love God. So I think that is the main thing when it comes to my religious outlook. I'm also a very big believer that your religion is for yourself, first and foremost.
Yeah.
So whatever values, whatever rules you think are also for you. I think that a lot sometimes when I'm just even on social media, going through Twitter and all of that. A lot of times people of any religion, right? I'm not just talking about Christianity, but there's a lot of wanting to impose your rules on other people.
Yeah.
That
You would not commit crime because of to defend your Christian faith, right?
I don't think
Yeah.
Christian faith would demand that you commit a crime to begin
Exactly.
with. Yeah.
Exactly. I kind of somehow, a thing on the similar line. I really question a lot, even when I read scripture. I question not because I doubt it, because I want to know more. And I kind of believe that there is a meaning in this, because I believe the scripture, I believe the whole idea of creation, I believe the whole idea of the work of Christ to bring salvation, to deliverance for humankind, which is full of sin. I believe in all that doctrinal process. However, in the midst of that, I want to question more and more so that I get to learn a lot about it. So, in order not to sound so theological here, I'm glad that I got to know about how you view about your belief, and as a bureaucrat, it's going to be very, very important for you to keep up those values.
Absolutely.
Like whatever you do, you want people to see as someone who follows the teachings of Christ. And generally speaking, we have stopped seeing that in the lives of many bureaucrats. Generally speaking, in a country, because every religion teaches about honesty, teaches about integrity. Which religion teaches about corruption? Right. Which religion teaches about manipulation and lobbying for power and money, bureaucrats or politicians? But I think we have lost the touch of that willingness to reflect the goodness and the values of Christ in our life. So I'm happy that you are thinking in that direction, and I hope you will continue to do that even after so many years of being in the government.
I really hope so. I really hope so. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a struggle every day
Of
with
course.
all the
Of
demands
course.
that the real world
I know.
pushes on a person. But
True.
yeah, I really hope that I can
True.
stay true to
I
my
mean,
values.
I'm very glad, that someone who has cracked this exam comes forward and, wanting and having the desire to, take up the job in that direction. I mean, that's something you can't be happier than that. As a society, everyone should be happy about it. Everyone should be proud of such ideals and, I mean, mission at this time. So thank you for that. And I mean, having come this far at this young age is quite exceptional. And in order to have come this far, you must have faced lots and lots of challenges as well, which people would not see that in you. People just see your success. But there is the rough road, that the valley of death that you have walked past. So I want to know some of the challenges that you would like to mention. Hey, the success is not, I'm just not this success. I've gone this much. I've gone through this much.
So in my life, I think
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate, in terms of having very supportive parents. Even financially, I've never had to struggle. So there are people out there with much bigger, I think, challenges. I mean, everyone's challenges are still challenges. I think it's not a
Yeah.
challenge competition where
Yeah.
one challenge, is more important than the other. But for me personally, I tend to think a lot. So, and it was just me and my thoughts. So getting a hold over my thoughts and my emotions, I think that was quite challenging for me. There were times when I would really, really all the time be very preoccupied with where my life was going. Today I have my parents to support me, but what of my tomorrow? What if I can make nothing of myself? What if I don't find something, what if I don't become a gainfully employed person, who I didn't want that fear that I would just be a lost person doing nothing. That would play in my head a lot. So a lot of, reining that in.
Yeah.
And I think as a person, I am very much into organization. I'm a big planner. I like to know what I'm getting into, what's going to happen, have things sorted. And with an exam like this, there's so much uncertainty that comes.
Yeah.
It's just a part of it. I mean, from the big things to the small things, right? You don't know if you're going to clear the exam. You don't know if it's going to happen for you.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the syllabus, you don't know if you are leaving something out that's going to become really important.
Yeah.
So coming to terms, I think one big lesson that this journey has taught me personally is that sometimes you cannot be in control of things. You cannot,
100%.
no matter how much you run around, you can't get the whole lay of the land. But at some point you have to become comfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity and just learn to live with it. So that was challenging. The exam process, there were certain things that happened during the exam that was quite challenging actually. My prelims experience was really bad last year, to be very honest. I gave it in Kohima, and I've never had this problem in my whole life, right? As a student, you write so many exams, but I had invigilators who talked throughout the exam.
Just in the exam hall?
Yes. So you have the general studies paper in the morning and you have the aptitude test in the afternoon session, right? So I had the same invigilators for both the sessions, and they just talked a lot throughout the process, and a lot of movement as well. I was in the first bench, so even in my field of vision, I could see a lot of movement, and that was really distracting for me. A lot of noise, a lot of going in and out. Eating was taking place. Then at some point, some more invigilators, I guess, some more people joined in from outside. The conversation also became a little louder, and I was too scared to say anything also. Nobody else in the room said anything. The power differential is just, it's a lot, right? It's very significant between somebody writing an exam and invigilator. So that happened, and it was really frustrating. Towards the end of the aptitude paper, I had this one question I was struggling with, just 15 minutes. I don't know if this is, 2 years of hard work, right? On the line. And this talking was going on, so I just raised my hand. Finally, I had enough. So I was like, excuse me, and I just said, shh.
Oh, okay.
And I think it really annoyed one of them, because he gave me quite a look, a bit of a dangerous look.
Yeah.
And he continued talking, but then I think his colleague sort of told him to just tone it down, and they were quiet for like the last 10 minutes. But that was a very unpleasant experience that I had.
Okay.
And when I went for my mains exam, my invigilator was a little too friendly again during one of my papers. He sent me a Facebook friend request immediately after the exam, and that was also
Something.
it's
Creepy.
just inappropriate.
Yeah.
Just inappropriate. I think it's a professional setting. I'm playing a particular role, you're playing a particular role.
Makes
So even in the case of the prelims, that maintaining silence, maintaining that conducive environment,
That's common sense.
it's I was pretty upset. I was very taken aback. I've never had an exam where the problem was that invigilators were talking a lot. But after that, I did tweet about it.
Okay.
I couldn't do anything else. I was really frustrated after the exam, so I tweeted about it. And there were certain people who also commented that they had faced similar experiences when they had given exams like the NET in Kohima. So I really hope that there's a lot more awareness about this also. People should just be more professional
Absolutely.
in everything that they do. Yeah.
Even in high school exam, just your normal school day exam, no one talks. No teachers will just come around and talk. And this is the highest exam in India. So why would anybody come and have a conversation, chit-chatting in front of students? That's very commonsensical that they should not. No one should be talking, and they need not be told that they should not be talking. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks for flagging the issue of like how, as a student and as a candidate, what kind of problems you faced from, not from the question itself, not from any kind of like problems that you are asked to solve, but from those who invigilate you, right? They're supposed to be looking after you all to make sure everything is done free and in a very fair manner. That's their job, to help you, to facilitate you to complete the process. But they're doing the opposite. I hope they get those rectified and never do that to anyone again.
Yeah,
So
doesn't happen to people.
Right. I also want to know from your interview days,
Right.
like how was it? Can you describe what kind of questions were you asked in brief, and how did you respond? And what were the questions that stand out, and how did you respond? Because these are things no one talks about, right? And I'm sure audience will also love to know how what questions did she really get in the interview process.
So my interview was it was a nice experience. It was very pleasant. A lot of people also think that a lot of grilling happens. You say one thing and they really make you pay for it by asking a lot of tricky questions. Nothing of the sort. It was very cordial. They did it was like a conversation. I think they would ask me something, I would say something, and if they would pick up something from it and ask me something again. But most of the questions they asked me were very opinion based. So when we go in for the interview, they have our details with them already, what optional subject we took. We also give them a list of our hobbies and all of that. So they started off with psychology. They asked me questions from that perspective. They asked me about social media and how it's affecting the youth, young children. They asked me questions about alienation of the northeastern, people from the northeastern states, and what could be some steps to, remedy the situation. They also asked me about, just expected questions. Did you face any racism when you were in Delhi? What kind of different treatment did you experience? They asked me a little bit about Manipur, about the potential of the Naga community to act as a bridge So the questions on that, they asked me about infrastructural development in the Northeast. If I knew of any initiatives that were taken, if I felt like there were still gaps, what. And there were also a few questions based on ethics. They asked me my take on abortion, pro-choice, pro-life. They also asked me a little bit about euthanasia.
Yeah. Okay. Those are very, I mean, one of the most controversial topics. And I don't know if you're willing to talk about this publicly. However, I want to know what was your response to the Manipur conflict and Nagas acting as the mediator between the two warring groups. What was your response in short?
Okay. So they just sort of asked me if Nagas could be a mediator, could be a mediating community. So I said, yes, of course, like, why not? And so how should you go about that? So, I mean, how should any mediator in any conflict go about something, right? You stay unbiased, you stay open to perspectives, maybe initiate or encourage small steps towards calming down some of the tensions that can be reciprocated. I mean, just so that was pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's another common sense, like we all we all will end up saying. Okay, so now as a Naga woman, and most importantly as a tribal woman, it's good that you are able to, you have come this far. I mean, to this, you have reached this top. Now, when you look back to the Naga society, the status of women, we Naga men are so proud that our women are so empowered. They have equal freedom. They have everything. But when you look deeper beyond that boasting, we see that there are some things that where women are always oppressed. Not necessarily just women. Even one gender against the other gender. There is an undeclared oppression, unrecognized oppression. And we don't formally declare that there is oppression. We're so proud of our culture. We have the same freedom. But when a good time comes for women to flex their muscles, everyone becomes uncomfortable. So as a young woman, what is your perspective on our Naga society when it comes to the status of women?
See, I think first things first, right? With everything in life, you have the good sides and the bad sides, and they coexist. So a lot of times I feel like people are also not very open to conversation, because it becomes the case of we let our girls go out and study, we don't stop them from studying. So what do you mean? That happens. But you can do that, and at the same time there can be other aspects where we are not really doing well, and that is something that you have to acknowledge. I think I am very proud of our culture. I'm very proud to be a Naga, but at the same time, culture is for people, right? People make culture, and I think it is as somebody who truly loves your culture, I think it's also your duty to examine it and see if there are certain aspects of it that aren't working so well. And if people make culture, people can change culture as well, right? And I really hope that, culture should work well for everybody in the culture, and not just for certain sections. When we just very objectively you look at women in Naga society, right? In terms of all kinds of empowerment, socially, when you're talking about social empowerment, political empowerment, a lot of it stems from economic empowerment. And when we look at our customary laws, there is no question that women are at a disadvantage when it comes to inheritance or owning of economic resources, right? In many cases, even with property that you acquire yourself, most families, if you go down to the land documents or the property documents, whose name is it in? Is also, and at the end of the day, these are things that we should acknowledge. A lot of people become very angry, I think, when you even acknowledge that, when you say that, this is how things are. And of course, we're not the worst of the lot. We're not the worst of the lot. Naga women are, but at the same time, just like how in class, your parents never tell you to compare yourself to the person who is at the last rank, and you don't console yourselves with that idea that, oh, at least I'm not the worst. There are so many societies that are ahead of us in terms of how equal women are in society. So I think we should not console ourselves with that idea that, oh, we're at least not the worst. Because a lot of times you hear people passing statements like, if you're in Afghanistan, you would not go to school and somebody would cover you up and all of that. But why are you competing with that? Why don't you compete with people who are doing much better than us, and so that we can also strive, to be better? And I think when it comes to, the gender, since, you've asked me, my personal take on it is that we sort of have a lot of very strict boundaries that we have drawn, a lot of categories. I think, what is masculine? What is feminine also? Why do we subscribe to these boxes where men have to be unfeeling and have to be angry and have to be tough, in a, not in the healthy, resilient sort of a way, but in just things like that, you cannot cry. Why can't you cry? Aren't you a human being? Every human being has human emotions, but that is something that I think, there are certain ideas on what is acceptable, what is, and even for women, you have all these traits that are assigned gender for no reason, I think. You have being caring, being soft, being sensitive with people. Why are these feminine traits, right? Sometimes I don't see that thing. And when it comes to interests also, I think there are all these interests that are boxed into categories. Why is cooking or baking a feminine activity? And say something like crafting something, wood crafting, why is that a masculine activity, right? I don't really see a lot of it does not make sense to me personally, if you ask me. And I think just in my life as a girl, as a woman in the society also, in small things also, sometimes people have the tendency to look down on so-called feminine traits. When I was a child, I had this full phase where I wanted to not be like the other girls. I'm not into fashion like the other girls. I am very serious, and you have this. People also have this thing sometimes that it's frivolous. To if you are into clothes and if you're into makeup or you're into these things, then it automatically means that you are dumb, which makes no sense actually. So I think gender in Naga society is, we have a long way to go.
Deconstructing those the gender construct in our society, deconstructing those will take time, and it needs education, and it needs openness to listen to each other. Because for now we are set, like the Naga mindset is, we are set, ours is the best, and we don't welcome any other opinion. Our women are the best and they have the best freedom. That's even what Afghanistan people will say. Go to Afghanistan and say, your women are being oppressed.
No, they'll be like,
they won't accept. No, they are given the freedom. They have the right. But we just apply this law and our law doesn't allow them. That's it. They just blame on the law.
People make laws. I think that is something we should become very clear with.
And it's the people who should change that.
Even in one interview that I did earlier, I had mentioned that, I wish care work that happens at home is also equally divided. In the sense, it should not fall only on women, and you see a lot of career women who have to really put in a lot at the workplace and then come home and also shoulder all the responsibilities at home. So I think those are things that we can, really, we need to look at how things are and move forward. I think there were also some people who had expressed their opinions that, Naga women are just happy, they're happy the way they are. You just go out and you get this feminism ka hawa, and then you come back and you start,
You know.
the sort of comments also you see sometimes. And a lot of this whole idea of feminism or women empowerment being an imported concept, why is gender equality an imported concept and gender inequality or sexism a concept that is not imported, right? I mean, it's also
Makes sense.
something that we should think about, I think.
Yeah, totally makes sense. I mean, sharing of responsibility is the key here. You know, it doesn't have to be, of course, 50-50. You do this chores and I do this chores.
Not at all.
I mean, we don't
it
mean
depends
that.
on
Yeah.
whatever you're good at.
Yeah,
And you
when you have the time, right?
and you, I mean, in any partnership, since we're talking about like household responsibilities,
Yeah.
we're mostly talking about, say, you're talking about people who are married, right? You maybe you don't divide things down with a knife, like you're dividing a cake, but you each do things so that at the end of the day, the burden is not falling disproportionately on one person.
Yeah.
So I think, we really need to
Yeah.
do that. Hopefully, things become better for working women also. When you're talking about childcare facilities, these are things where, we're lagging behind also.
So in other words, when the wife is a working woman, it's totally fine for the husband to look after children and do all the household chores when she's away for work. And same time, when the husband is the working man, it's good for women to just do the household chores.
Yeah, I mean, see,
Yeah,
if you have a partnership, if you have something where somebody has decided to be the homemaker and somebody is going to be the person who goes out and works, I mean, that's a different case. Yeah.
I'm very much into gender equality, but the radical feminists will say a little bit more than that. So that becomes, that becomes a controversy, and that becomes a challenging, very debatable point for many people. However, when it comes to equality, like Jello, you are also a human being. I don't see you as that woman and attributing certain roles for you, and I don't see that to myself. But let's be human being with each other.
Yeah.
And perfect partnership in one unity and sharing and caring for each other. And the key is caring for each other.
Yeah. One more thing, actually,
Yeah,
I
please.
just when you were talking about it, something just struck my mind.
Yeah.
When you're talking about males and females, right? There is no doubt you do have biological differences between men and women. The problem starts when, for me personally, my opinion is that you have these biological differences, but when these biological differences start translating into socioeconomic differences that don't really make sense, that is where I think, it's, and even the way we think, we also have to sort of recognize why we think the way we think. Why is the normal the normal? When we're talking about, say, European history, right? You're talking about phases like the Enlightenment, the Renaissance. There was so much. Greece was the cradle of democracy. Half the population, that is women, were explicitly barred from voting, right? So it's only a democracy if you are completely disregarding the treatment of women. Women are not getting to vote. So it's not really a democracy in the sense of the word. When you're talking about even phases like the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, women were not really doing great that ways. It wasn't an enlightenment for women. So those are things that I think, we should also sort of think about consciously when it comes to how we define strength also, disadvantages, right? A lot of times people will say that men are physically stronger, which they are. But why is that the only measuring stick for strength or an advantage? People say that women, sometimes people also say that women are at a disadvantage because maiki khando iman takut kuruwa na pare physically, right? But you don't turn around and say stuff like women can give birth to children and men cannot. Women can, grow human beings and give birth to them, men cannot. You don't say that men are weak or they are at a disadvantage or they are not strong because they can't do this thing that women do, right? So even the ways we define strength, I think, needs a looking at. And like you said, just recognizing that we're human beings. I think that is very important. A lot of times women's bodies become you're seen as vessels of
Yeah.
honor, and a lot of sexualization, I
Very
think,
much.
takes place of the women's body. You know,
Very
why is my shoulder inherently more sexual than a male shoulder, right? It's not. At the end of the day, you're just a human being. So I hope that people start recognizing that first and foremost, that women are humans, and I think that would just clear up a lot of the clutter inside our heads as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the issue is like kind of too big to pick one certain direction. However, like, it's good to question. I really like people questioning the status quo of any society, right? It should be questioned, and sometimes we can be wrong. Sometimes we can be right. So, but let it be questioned. Everything that you observe, and everything where you find irregularities in the society. And yes, but at the end of the day, what we need is, I mean, look at the other humans, look at the other person as another fellow human being who feel the same like you feel, who doesn't want to go through and take up the same task and chores as you don't want to. I mean, in a negative sense, but in a positive sense also, who want to help others as you want to help others. So like this reciprocity should be strongly built in a relationship with people.
Yeah, and like, I mean, our society also, every society has good things and bad things,
Of
right? But
course.
like you said, I think it's very important to critically examine things.
Every time.
What is good, we recognize that, oh, this is something that we're doing right, and
Right.
we keep that.
Right.
What is not looking so right, we should also have the courage to
Change it.
change it,
Yeah.
not just accept things that are not working also, that are not good, just because it's always been like that. I mean,
True,
that's pretty poor excuse.
True. But when you look at it, of course, education also plays a very role in bringing change. It's one of the strongest factors, but also we can't ignore the factor such as time. Imagine 100 years back, there were headhunting, which was quite normal. This is fine. This
Yeah.
is our culture. What's
Yeah.
wrong with it? But with the passage of time, this is unbearable savagery. So like, okay, we need to change, and we changed it. And now we respect each other, we care for each other, and we all think that violence is really, really bad. It's undemocratic. It's like animals. So we can't do that. We don't do that. So these ideas that you also mentioned, that you shared about gender equality and respect for each other, and not sexualizing a person based on how he looks, she looks. So I think this change will come when people realize with the passage of time. And time is the biggest factor to bring change, I believe. I mean, with the help of other factors as well.
Yeah.
So without going deeper into that topic, now I would also, as on the concluding part, like to also know, you're going to become a bureaucrat, right? And when will you be starting your training?
I'm not very sure yet,
Okay.
but August to September is the expected. Nothing concrete yet.
Okay.
I should find out soon, but that is when it's expected to begin. Yeah.
Right. And thanks to reservation, thanks to Dr. Ambedkar, like, for introducing this idea of reservation, where we are able to see the same world with others who have gone far ahead of us. Still, we get the scope to see what they see. So, and securing all India ranking 431, if it is a general category, you might not get the IAS allocation.
Absolutely, yeah.
But as a tribal, you're going to get likely. I don't know how it is. I haven't studied about it, but I'm just thinking that it's very rare. So you're definitely going to get it. I mean, what is your expectation?
Yes, there has been no formal
Communication.
intimation or allocation yet, but keeping in mind we have a fair idea of how many vacancies there are,
Right.
and we have a fair idea of what my position is within the category as well.
Right.
So I should be getting the IAS, which is my first preference. Yeah.
And would you be willing for IPS as well? Is
The
that your
IPS
is that your
was.
cup of tea?
I mean, I'm up for it.
Okay.
I'm up for it. It was fourth in my list of preferences.
Fourth.
So yes.
Which is the second? IFS.
The second was the
Okay,
foreign
foreign
service.
service,
The
okay.
foreign service, and then the audits and accounts service,
Really?
and then the police service. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. If I were to choose, I would choose the second first, Keep the second option first, and the first as second, and the fourth as third.
I was very keen on. I mean, I
Foreign
think the
service.
foreign service is very fascinating. I would have loved to be a diplomat as well.
Yeah, I'm not
But-
judging your character. I'm not judging your capability, but I feel that it can suit you very well also, because once you're in the system as an administrative officer, high chances that people get consumed by the system and like reborn in a system way. There's high chances because we have seen many people doing that. And for now, how are you visualizing yourself? And what is your ideal bureaucrat? What does an ideal bureaucrat look like? What does an ideal IAS look like to you?
See, I'm just going into this. The chapter, this journey has not even begun for me. I'm just about to open the book now.
Right.
So I think one thing for which I also chose the IAS as my first preference, and I think it is like that, it gives you an exposure to so many different situations, so many different fields. And I think the demands of each is very different, and only once you're into it do you get a fair idea of what you can do, what you might want to do within that particular thing. But for me, on a very general level, what I do want to do is I want to work well, no matter which assignment I get, no matter where I go. I want to do my duty with integrity. Everyone wants the service because of what it can do for you.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, there is a reason why everybody wants a government job as well, right? It gives you experiences that maybe you don't find in another field. It gives you that security, the job security also.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. I mean, these are things. But at the same time, I also want to be good for my job. I hope my job is good for me, and I want to be good for my job as well.
Absolutely.
So I just want to do my duties properly, and I want to always improve myself as a person. In every sense of the word. I mean, I did not do a master's. That used to bother me for the longest time. Hopefully I will get to. I mean, I do want to study further
Why not?
in the future. So, and I think the more you develop yourself consciously, the better asset you are. The better an asset you are also for whatever kind of job you go into. So, yeah, I think for now that is what I would want to do.
Well and good. I mean, for studies, definitely you can take a study break and go for a few years, disappear for a few years, come back. I have some friends who are civil servants right now.
I see.
And they cracked. I think they were my colleagues, but they cracked after 2014. So they all left their job and they went into civil service. And after that, they went for master or to pursue other degrees. So, I mean, you have every chance, and you're still very young, honestly. Like, you have still a long... You have a big future to really pursue on, and I'm sure you will really enjoy the process. And more than that, the learning process will be amazing for you as well, because you have
Really
not worked
looking forward
anywhere
to it.
as a
No.
professional.
No.
So the reality is
My
different.
first,
So,
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it'll be a good ride.
Right. So all the very best.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you.
thanks for talking to us. And it's quite enriching. And maybe later part in your life, once you become so immersed into this service, let's talk again and see where you stand and how you have been working, right?
I will look forward to that. Yeah.
And you can always refer to our conversation and reflect as your guiding light to always give the best service, as you have expressed here, right? Thank you so much, and all the very best.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.